Hey y'all, my name is Bethany or Budget Bethany and welcome to my weekly What's for Dinner. If this is your first time watching one of my What's for Dinners, welcome. I'm so glad to have you. If you came here in need of some new meal ideas, then just keep watching. Alright, so up first we're just going to be cooking some of this pink salmon skinless fillets, and I just got these from Walmart in the frozen section. To start with, I took out however many I would need for my family, and I'm going to cover them with olive oil, and I'm going to cover them really well, and then I'm going to sprinkle my seasonings on there, and I always say y'all use whatever kind of seasonings that you like. For my seasonings, I'm just going to be using some Tony's Creole seasoning and some lemon pepper, and then I'm going to add some garlic butter on top of them. And I wish I had added the garlic butter before I added the seasonings, so if you try to recreate this meal idea, then I suggest that you put the butter and garlic on first. Don't make the same mistake that I did. And then the next part is optional, and I always roll my lemons like that so they can be really juicy. Then I just cut it up in little circles, and I'm going to place one lemon per salmon. You do not have to do that, but I feel like it just gives it a little bit of zest, and it also makes it look pretty. And alright, for our sides to go with our salmon, we're just going to be doing some steamed broccoli right here in this pan with some water, and I also add some garlic powder and some salt and pepper, but I don't show that on camera. And then I'm going to cover it with a lid and just let that simmer until my salmon and everything get done. And also we're going to have some of this Italian side creamy garlic shells. These were alright, but I probably will not buy those again. My family really did not care for them, but it was a really good compliment to the salmon. This is how everything looked once it was done, and it was really delicious, y'all. Alright, so I've got this half of Boston butt. It was part of a larger Boston butt, and it was cut in half. The other half we cooked for something else. Tonight I'm just going to bake this other half, and we're just going to cut it in little slices and hopefully eat it like that. We usually eat it shredded, and we've never tried it any other kind of way, so I hope this turns out really well. But to start with, I'm just going to rub some olive oil all on it, and then all different kinds of seasonings, and I'll show you the seasonings one by one as I add them. So hopefully this works. Once I do that, I'm going to wrap it in tinfoil and put it in the oven and bake it on about 400 for probably about an hour or so. Alright, so I started by poking holes all in this meat, and then I added the olive oil and the seasonings. I forgot to mention that earlier in the first clip, but anyway, so I'm just poking holes with forks all in it. Now I'm adding the olive oil, and then I'll be adding my seasonings, and I'll show you each seasoning one by one. For a side to go with our Boston butt, or our barbecue Boston butt, I'm just making some deviled eggs. So I boiled some eggs, and now I'm just taking the shells off, and I like to dip mine in water to make sure I get off any of the excess shell. Then you will want to cut your eggs in half and take out the yolk part, and just put the white part back on the plate, because you're going to use your yolks to make the mixture that you're going to put back inside of the hole of the egg. Alright, so now you'll add, or I'm going to mash mine up first. It just makes it easier for stirring purposes. Then you'll add in some mayonnaise and some relish, some salt and pepper. And I do prefer to use the dill relish, but I didn't have any on hand this time, so I had to use the sweet relish. The sweet relish tastes just as good, we just prefer the dill. Then you will take your egg mixture and then just place it back into the holes of the white part of your egg. Alright, so once I got through doing that, you do not have to do this, but I like to sprinkle pepper on top of mine. Some people also like to do paprika. To go with our Boston butt and our deviled eggs and our potato salad, we're going to have a can of baked beans. It's just a great value maple honey or maple brown sugar brand. Alright, so here's how I make my potato salad, and my grandma is actually the one who taught me how to make potato salad. So you just boil some cubed up some potatoes until they're soft, and you'll add mayonnaise, mustard, relish, and salt and pepper, and an egg or two. It just depends on how much you're making, but for the size that I'm making, I only need one egg. You will mix all those ingredients together, and I like to add my egg last, and I use my potato masher to just mash the egg up in little chunks, or you could just cut it up in there. I also like to mash my potatoes. Some people do not. They like to leave their potatoes whole in the potato salad, but we prefer ours to be mashed. Alright, so once my meat came out of the oven, my husband had the idea that we were going to fry them for just a little while, just to get it kind of crispy. And then here's how our plate looks once it was plated up. We just sliced up some taters out of our garden, and this was dinner for this night. Making a meatloaf, and I found this recipe on Pinterest, and you'll just need a box of chicken stuffing, a pound of ground beef, 2 eggs, and some ketchup. The recipe that I found did not call for this, but I'm going to mix this in with my ground beef, and then I'll just put ketchup on top and bake it, like that. And then we're going to have some green beans with it, and I got the Italian dressing right there to go in the green beans, and we're also going to have some potatoes. I'm not sure if I'm going to mash them yet, or if I'm just going to boil them with the green beans. Haven't really decided. And we're going to have some fresh creamed corn to go with our meatloaf. So now I'm going to start making my meatloaf, y'all. Alright, so first you'll add your chicken stuffing to your ground beef, and then I'm going to add in my can of tomato sauce, and then we're just going to add our 2 eggs also, and then we're just going to, I'm going to use my hands. You can use whatever you prefer, but I just find using my hands is easier. And we're going to mix this all up really well and get it all incorporated together. So once I got all my meat and my stuffing and everything mixed together, I'm going to add it into this loaf pan. I just prefer to make my meatloaf in a loaf pan, if I can talk, y'all. And you do not have to put it in a loaf pan. You could just put it in a regular baking dish, but I just find it works better this way, and it makes it more thick pieces than thin, and we prefer thick, so this works out for us. But I was just making some suggestions for y'all if y'all don't like thick pieces of meatloaf. Then once I get everything placed into this baking dish, I'm going to add some ketchup on top and kind of rub that all around evenly on top. And then, y'all, this is probably the hardest part of the meal. You just open up 2 cans of green, well, not 2 cans. If you need 2 cans, you can open up 2 cans, I guess. But I'm just opening up 1 large family size green beans. I'm going to dump it in my pot. And then I'm going to sprinkle some Italian seasoning on top. And I usually just coat the top of mine and then keep the rest for another date. But that's all I'm doing for my green beans, y'all. And then I just cook them on low until my meatloaf gets done. This corn that I'm going to be adding to my pot is some fresh corn that I just put up a few weeks ago in a What's for Dinner, I believe it was, that I shared that corn stuff that I was putting up. Anyway, I just cooked that on low because you don't want it to scorch. And then once it gets all melted and everything, I add some sugar, and it's less than a half a cup, so it's not very much. I just kind of coat the top of my corn, and I add about a tablespoon, which would be a cube of butter. Let all that melt and incorporate together, and heat the corn up, make sure it's all melted and everything. That'll be done. And then for my potatoes, I just skinned them and boiled them, and they were just boiled potatoes. So here's my meatloaf once it come out of the oven. It was so good, y'all. If y'all have never tried this stuff in meatloaf, I highly suggest that you try it. It was really good. Then here's my corn. And then here's the green beans. Once they're done, the hardest part of the meal, you just had to open the can and put some seasonings in there. And then here's my potatoes, y'all. This was really good. My family enjoyed it, and my husband usually is not a fan of meatloaf, but he said this meatloaf was pretty good. If we were rating this meatloaf, we would give this meatloaf 5 stars, y'all. Alright, so for the dessert idea that I have for y'all, I actually got this idea from Shauna from the Dickinson Homestead. She made a pie a few weeks back. It was a key lime pie, I believe. And I'm just going to be making a lemon lime pie because I had some lemon juice and some lime juice on hand. So all you'll need is 2 blocks of cream cheese, and I'm going to be adding those to my bowl. You will need a can of condensed milk, some lime juice, lemon juice, and really honestly, I don't think you would have to have both of the juices. You could just do one because they basically kind of taste the same. And I poured in a half of cup of the lemon lime juice. I just mixed it together to make a half a cup. Then I will add a 1/4 cup of sugar, and then I'll just pour in my whole can of condensed milk. Now you just want to mix it up really well with your mixer. I'm just using a hand mixer. If you have one of the fancy dancy ones, that will work too. Then you will open up your pie crust, and I just got the pre-made graham cracker crust pie crust. Gosh, that was a lot to say, y'all. And then you'll just dump your cream cheese mixture into your pie crust, and then I like to decorate the top, but that part's optional. You do not have to decorate it, but I just feel like it makes the pie look so much prettier whenever you decorate it. So I added some lemon slices to the top, and then I let that chill for about an hour in the refrigerator, and it was so delicious, y'all. It's cool and refreshing on a hot day. So if you've never tried one of these lemon lime pies, I highly suggest you try them. I hope y'all enjoyed this What's for Dinner. If you did, please don't forget to leave me a big thumbs up and subscribe if you're not already. I would love for you to join my YouTube family, and I'll see y'all next week. Bye, y'all.